Good evening. My name is Roman Oseghale. I'm an architect and also a business intelligence consultant and analyst. Part of what we do is comprehensive market and industry analysis. That is either identifying problems and how to solve them or discovering prospects and opportunities within the market. We also identify both the market and industry value chains and their optimizations to create not just only opportunities for companies, but also economic benefits for the country. This involves mining big data and making sense of the market, industry, and economic numbers. Today, I want to talk about the farmers and the cattle headers problem, which is currently plaguing some communities in Nigeria. I will talk on the definition of the problems, Nigeria's unused and untapped potential, and the business benefits which Nigeria is not tapping into. And as usual, we will use data and statistics to buttress our assertions. Now, did you know that the global ranching industry and its value chain is worth trillions of dollars? Did you know that the United States had 94.4 million cattle in 2020, and the dairy industry, which is just a segment of the value chain of the ranching industry, generated $628 billion in the US economy through its economic impact in 2020, which is more than the entire GDP of Nigeria, and the industry creates about 3 million jobs and paid out about $159 billion in wages? Did you know that the ranching industry and its value chain, if developed in Nigeria, can add about 1.5 to 2 million jobs and conservatively add about 150 to 180 billion US dollars annually to our GDP through its economic impact, and with an annual average growth rate of about 2%? Now, in 1999, while working with a multinational company in Nigeria, a white colleague of mine, a European, came into my office and said to me, "I don't understand you people." And I looked up and asked him what he meant. And he said, "You people have the right weather from January 1st to December 31st, and yet you cannot do anything with it." He said, "Do you know that the comparative and competitive advantage that you have over the world is limitless? And do you know that at the peak of winter, everything shuts down in Europe?" If you've ever lived outside the country in a temperate region, then you will realize what he was saying, that these guys only have about 5 to 6 months to cultivate and harvest. If they have to plant during the winter months, then it has to be indoors, which increases the cost astronomically because of the heating system and make the produce expensive and uncompetitive. But even with the dry season in Nigeria and proper irrigation, there can still be bumper harvest. But once it's winter here, nothing grows outside. While open grazing is the major cause of the problem, but there's something of great importance which nobody is looking at, and that is the numbers. Do you know that the corn stalk and the leaf hay we cut down and burn annually after harvesting the maize are actually worth billions of dollars in the international market? So is the rice stalk hay, the sugarcane hay, and the famous elephant grass found everywhere in Nigeria, which farmers cut and burn down before planting. Did you know that the global hay industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide, of which Nigeria is not tapping into or benefiting from? And if properly developed in Nigeria, through its economic impact, it can conservatively add between 5 to 10 billion US dollars to our GDP annually, create over 200,000 jobs, and earn Nigeria between 100 to 150 million dollars in foreign exchange from export of hay annually. When abroad, you see the hay fields in the countryside, and when matured and harvested, they are stacked into bales for local consumption and both the export market for horses, cows, goats, ram, sheep, rabbit, cattle, you name it. Did you know that according to Statista, in 2012, there were 20.7 million cattle, 80.8 million goats, and 42.5 million sheep in Nigeria. And it is estimated that by 2050, there will be 53.6 million cattle, 207.8 million goats, and 78.2 million sheep. For the cattle alone, that's an average growth of 866,000 annually. If we use the same average annual growth rate, then at the end of 2020, Nigeria had an estimated 27.626 million cattle, 107.536 million goats, and 50.015 million sheep. The total being 185.178 million. That is 90% of Nigeria's 206 million human population as at the end of 2020. Did you know that there are only 51 countries in the world with a human population with more than 27 million in 2020? Nigeria's cattle of 27.626 million is more than the entire population of the Cameroon. Did you know that there are only 7 countries in the world with a population that exceeds 185 million people? Now you see where the problem lies. Cattle population increased by 6.926 million in 8 years. The livestock have to be fed. The population of the livestock is like a country within a country. But this is where it gets interesting. A cattle eats an average of 40 pounds. That is 18.1 kg of hay daily. And if you multiply that by the 27.626 million cattle, that will give us 500.03 million kilograms of hay food needed to feed the cattle daily. Now, humans, on the other hand, eat an average of 2.5 kg of food daily. Now, when you multiply that by the 206 million human population, you get 515 million kilograms of food needed daily to feed the Nigerian population. So the cattle need almost the same kilogram of food as the entire 206 million human population daily. Just imagine if the human population did not have an agricultural industry to cater for the food needs. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting. But when you add the goats and the sheep that eat an average of 2 kg of hay daily, you will get 815 million kilograms of hay food needed to feed the cattle, goat, and sheep on a daily basis. That is 300 million kilograms of food, more than the entire Nigerian population needs daily to survive. Now, you see where the major problem is. Without a proper developed industry, there is going to be chaos and problems. Just imagine having a country of 27 million people with no homes and no developed agricultural industries to feed them, and just roaming from one society to the other. And that's exactly what is happening here. We are not going to focus on the problems here, but rather the opportunities. In every sea of problems lies an ocean of opportunities. Now that we have identified the problems, now let us identify Nigeria's unused and an untapped potential. And to do that, we will compare Nigeria and Egypt. Because of the presidential initiative to increase and support the local rice production, in 2019, Nigeria became the largest producer of rice in Africa, producing 4 million tons a year to overtake Egypt. But before then, Egypt was producing an average of 4.3 million tons annually. But because of its harsh weather conditions caused by extreme heat and the Egyptian government's new policy of preserving water resources, annual rice output reduced by 40% to 2.58 million tons, thus pushing Nigeria to the #1 position. Let us do a quick comparison. Egypt population as of 2019 was 100.3 million people. Nigeria population as of 2019 was 200.9 million people. Egypt's land size, 1.01 million square kilometers. Nigeria's land size, 923.76 thousand square kilometers. But the interesting thing is this. About 90% of that of Egypt, that is 909,000 square kilometers, consists of desert areas. Roughly 98% the size of Nigeria. That is the Libyan and the Arabian deserts, which means that Egypt only has 101,000 square kilometers of arable farmland for both population and crop yield. That is about only 11% of the size of Nigeria. Now let us look at the annual rainfall. Egypt records 20 mm, that is 0.79 inches, and 200 mm, that is 7.8 1.87 inches of annual rainfall along the narrow Mediterranean coast. But south to Cairo, the average drops to nearly 0 mm. That is 0 inches of rainfall in the central and the southern parts of the country. Now let us look at the annual rainfall in Nigeria. We all know Nigeria has very good and fertile arable farmlands. The southern part records well above the 2,000 mm, that is 78.7 inches, annual average rainfall for tropical rainforest climate worldwide. The coastal regions of Nigeria and around the Niger Delta regions records well over 4,000 mm, that is 157.5 inches of average rainfall annually. The southeast, rest of the southeast receives between 2,000 to 3,000 mm, that is 118.1 inches of rainfall annually. Central Nigeria averages between 1,100 mm, that is 43.3 inches, to 2,000 mm, 78.7 inches of rainfall. Extreme North averages 500 mm, that is 20 inches annually. Despite having one of the best weather for agriculture and rainfall in the world, Nigeria has not been able to utilize and tap its full potentials. Now, let us look at the business opportunities Nigeria is losing by not developing this industry and its value chain. Now, with ranching comes the creation of a value chain industry that will not only benefit and cater for the local market, but also open up international businesses for Nigeria. And with arable farmland, the country is sure to benefit from international trade, utilizing its comparative and competitive advantage of a good weather system from January 1st to December 31st. The ranching industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide. Did you know that at the end of 2018, the global beef market revenue generated $385.7 billion US for producers and exporters, excluding logistics and retail marketing costs and retailers' margin, and grew by 5.1% against the previous year, with a market value increasing at an average annual rate of plus 3.2% from 2007 to 2018, and the growth has remained consistent. This is just two segments of the overall value chain. But I will only be talking about just one segment of the value chain, which is the hay industry. And this is the reason why I've been talking about the weather and the arable farmlands in Nigeria and comparing Nigeria to Egypt. The hay industry, which consists of different species of grasses, are also worth billions of dollars worldwide. And because of time, I will be talking about the alfalfa hay, which is a species of grass and a sub-segment of the total value chain industry, and which Nigeria can benefit from if we set up a value chain in the ranching industry. Did you know that at the end of 2019, the alfalfa hay market was worth $14.57 billion US, and it is expected to reach $20.55 billion US by 2025, growing at a compounded growth rate of 5.89%. Did you know that there are 7,457 establishments in Canada operating in the hay industry, primarily engaged in growing hay, grasses, and mixed hay, with 0 to 99 employees? These establishments employ hundreds of thousands of people. As at the end of 2019, Canadian total export of hay was 166.4 million Canadian dollars, with a net import of 29.7 million Canadian dollars, and an average revenue per SME was 325,100 Canadian dollars, and a profitability margin of 47.4%. Did you know that Aldara ACX Global Incorporated, a US company which specializes in feed products and hay, operates in 20 markets and has 5,000 employees? Did you know that in 2020, the United States exported a total of $1.51 billion US worth of alfalfa hay and other types of hay to other countries, accounting for 55.2% of the total global export of hay worldwide, with China being the largest importer of hay from the United States, followed by Japan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, South Korea, and Taiwan. Did you know that in 2019, Japan imported a total of $490 million worth of hay from the United States alone, and imported a total value of $2.12 billion worth of hay from the US between 2015 and 2019? The hay export still remains a small portion of the total US hay production. Based on the United States Department of Agriculture production data for 2019, only 3.5% of all US hay produced and 5.4% of all alfalfa are exported from the United States, which accounts for the $1.51 billion global export market share of the United States. That means that internal consumption is actually very, very huge. Did you know that the United States is the largest hay exporter in the world, with a net export of $1.51 billion in 2019, accounting for 55.2% of the total global hay export market, followed by Australia at $362.02 million, accounting for 13.27%, and then Spain at $205.58 million, accounting for 7.54%. Then Canada at $133.29 million and accounting for 4.89%. Italy at $112.53 million. France at $53.40 million. The Netherlands at $43.59 million. And then Sudan at $36.78 million. Then followed by Germany at $36.67 million. And then coming last among the first 10 is Romania at $30.73 million. Did you know that of the 10 highest exporters of hay, they control 92.41% of the total export industry? Did you know that of the 10 countries, only Sudan is an African country with an average rainfall of 47 inches in the south and 4 inches in the north, compared to that of Nigeria? And Egypt is placed at number 13 with over 90% of its land being desert, but controls 0.93% of the total hay export market. And only 3 African countries, Sudan, South Africa, and Egypt, made the first 19 countries with a total share of just 3.34% of the total global export of hay. Did you know that of the 10 countries that control 92.41% of the hay export market, only Sudan completely exists in the tropical region? The United States and Australia have some parts of their countries with tropical climate, and the other 7 countries are temperate countries with lots of climatic disadvantage, but are still leading exporters. Did you know that with its strategic advantage, Sudan increased its share of global export of hay by 747.29% over the previous year? So what is driving the growth in the high demand of hay? 1. Increasing demand for dairy and meat products as population increases. Annual growth of meat production in developing countries is projected to be 2.4%, and that of milk production 2.5% till 2030. This is expected to increase the developing countries' share in the world meat production to 66%. That is a whopping 247 million metric tons. And in milk production to 55%. That is 484 million metric tons. Nigeria has the capacity to tap into this market if the industry is developed. 2. The dairy sector is essentially boosting the demand for alfalfa hay in China, Japan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Brazil, Argentina, and a host of other countries. China alone has about 15 million cows in its dairy industry, among which 1.5 million are high producers, producing 9-ton annual milk yield. 3. Cattle and buffalo population in 2016 was 1.671 billion, and that increased to 1.696 billion by 2018. Did you know that in 2018, the cattle and buffaloes alone, their population was 22.34% of world human population. 4. The Saudi Arabian government embarked upon a 3-year program to conserve water resources by greatly reducing its domestic production of alfalfa and other commodities important for dairy and livestock production. In conclusion, Nigeria can benefit immensely from developing a value chain for the ranching industry, both locally and from international trade. Just imagine having a country of 27 million people without a proper agricultural industry to feed them, talk less of a livestock of 185 million. Did you know that despite having 27.626 million cattle, according to Reuters, January 2020, Nigeria still spends between 1.2 to 1.5 billion US dollars importing milk annually. Our inability to look inward is the reason the Naira keeps nosediving. Numbers talk, and if well utilized, we can use them to solve problems and plan ahead. Let us work together and avert this chaos. Develop this industry and add economic benefits to Nigeria. Did you know that the 27.626 million cattle in Nigeria has a market valuation of 4.144 trillion naira, using an average of 150,000 naira per cattle, and with an average growth of 130 billion naira, that is 3% natural growth from its 866,000 average annual population growth. Apart from the extractive industry, there is no other commodities industry in Nigeria that can compare to this industry. If we develop the ranching industry, industries like the hay industry, the dairy industry, expansion of the veterinary industry, the corn beef industry, logistics, and a lot more other industries will be developed. Remember, all these other industries have their own value chains too. So the chain reaction is endless. While the hay industry can create over 200,000 jobs, just imagine what these other industries will create. From projections, by 2050, the population of cattle, goats, and sheep in Nigeria will need about 7.5 billion kg of hay daily as food, while human population will need about 1 billion kg of food daily. That is 750% more than what the humans will need. The demands are increasing annually, and the opportunities are huge. There is a detailed and comprehensive 90-page report which captures the full market, industry, and economic analysis and all its value chain, including the market and industry projections, investment and implementation strategies, which are suitable for both local and foreign investors, which you can request for. I look forward to both the state and federal government, the business community taking advantage and positive steps on this. As I said earlier, my name is Roman Oseghale, and I want to thank you all for listening.